local side, let's have questions. Oh, Marvin, that's not me, but that's a question from Marvin. What are the strategies on investing in time for upcoming elections? April talked about a bit of this.
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier that it's risky to base your decision just because it's elections, you're going to stay away. Because during the past 5 presidential elections, 3 months before the election date, you had a median return of around 8%. So medyo ini-ignore lang ng mga tao because maybe most likely because historically it's been shown that the early front runner isn't exactly the one that wins the elections. Parang wala pang kasiguraduhan. So yun, no? And yeah, you did see, I think, for example, in the 1998 elections, of course, the market went down, but I don't think it had so much to do with the election of President Estrada, but more of the fact that we were in the middle of the Asian financial crisis. So yeah, I think, okay, when you're trying to learn more about the candidate, it's good to hear what their economic policies are. And I mean, think about President Duterte. He's not exactly the greatest when it comes to economic policies, but he did, nominate very good economic managers. So they were able to come out with good economic policies, which helped the economy grow quite fast pre-pandemic.
Good. Speaking of the economy, April, it was reported by, I think, Carl Chua. We did about 7.7% in GDP growth in the fourth quarter, 5.6 2021. Now they are projecting 7 to 9% GDP target for this year, and Carl Chua is optimistic that they can achieve it. What do you think? How confident are you in that target? And if not, what kind of growth rate are you looking at?
I mean, I don't do forecasts, but I think anything above 6 is good at this point. And I think it really depends on reopening. I mean, you could see, if you look at the fourth quarter GDP numbers, what was very striking was the fact that, I mean, if you look at the consumer spending, investment spending, government spending, exports, what really popped out was the consumer spending. So the consumers have the capacity to spend more. It's just that they were locked down, so they couldn't spend. So the reopening really will mean a lot. And if we do reopen in 2022, then we could grow faster, and hopefully if we reach 7%, that's going to be a pleasant surprise, because even though the government is saying 7 to 9%, I think the consensus forecast is a lot lower.
And you will be happy at 6?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Sige. Let's go to the other questions. Other group of questions. I think we got about 200 questions. We're putting them together. Sector outlook. I think this is for you also, April. During this highly volatile market, what sector can be considered safe or has higher earning potential this year, this 2020?
So if you're concerned about COVID still being a problem and the government still not reopening the economy, you could invest in the REITs and maybe in telcos, and also in power like AP. So those should still be okay regardless of what happens. So you can just stick to them just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. Ito, connected to the second question, meron bang emerging industries to watch out for that can also give good yield?
Long term, unfortunately sa Philippines hindi naman ganyan.
Yung mga renewable siguro.
Yeah, oo. Pero naunahan ng kwento eh. Kamahal, di ba?
Yeah, that's right. Sa umpisa siguro pwede, no? Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a question that you should ask Juanis, because they should view it as a trade, not so much as a fundamental.
Juanis, yung mga ESG plays. Maganda ba yon? Yung mga SPNEC?
No, those I think those are more longer term orientation in their play, because I think even if you are ESG, it reflects maybe on the longer term side, but not too much on the shorter term side. So traders will trade anything that moves, so it doesn't matter if it's ESG or not.
Yeah, right. Okay. Sige, next group of questions. Let's have them. REIT. Ito naman. From Maxi. How do we see REITs rising this year? You have M-REIT, PhilREIT. Oh, there's another one. C-REIT. Diba? Critical REIT. Kamusta yon?
Yeah, that one I think is okay naman. Mataas ang dividend yield. 7.1%. The outlook naman for power rates is going up, so I think it's quite secure. They can pay that 7% yield. So looks good. Maybe the short-term growth, di ba kasi we talked about asset injections and escalation. We might not see a lot of that because the parent doesn't have any more assets to inject, because they will use the proceeds of the IPO to actually build more solar power plants. But then, because of the REIT law, you need to have 3 years of seasoning of the asset. They have to mature first for 3 years before they can be injected. Yeah. So yun yung issue kung bakit let's just focus on C-REIT. For example, PhilREIT is not also going up as much, and they're not talking about asset injection. And I think it's because of that also. They don't have mature assets that they can inject. So may ganon pa siyang angle. That's why when you study REITs, you also have to know if the parent or the sponsor has, the right assets that can be injected right away.
So people should look at REITs not in general, but medyo piliin mo din. Parang ganon. Kanina, you like M-REIT, but you don't like a REIT. Parang ganon.
Yan. Second question, di ba? Is it a good buy when the dividend yield is depressed by stock price increase? Well, mababa eh. I mean, 3+ is low. So, rates, we don't expect rates to go up sharply, but what if they do? Then, 3.7 is not exactly a very good, diba? Not a very good yield. It's quite low. I would buy it if it goes down.
Sige. Yeah. Next group. Yun na ba? Is that our last? Now, let's open it to our Q&A live. You can still ask your questions through the Q&A tab, and we'll try to answer them. Okay, from Carl. I'm a tactical investor, Sir Juanis. What percentage would you give the possibility to the recent sell-off in the US market is likely the beginning of a bear market? Juanis.
Well, in definition, a bear market means that the index has to drop down more than 20% from the high. Right now, the Nasdaq is close to that because it's done about 15-16% into a decline. But in terms of the S&P, which is about 10% off, that means it has to double the decline it has made so far in order to enter into that. And if you notice that the view of a lot of people, especially those who gave you opinions here, it's all about interest rates climbing up to be able to slow things down, but there is an expansion going on, not a contraction in business. So yes, in the beginning it might look scary because the market is adjusting from a very, very stimulative situation into one that is more controlled. And it's because of that the market's making a reaction and trying to narrow down the valuations. So I don't view it as a bear market. I think, yes, it might just seem like doing the short term, but I think it will make a recovery.
So not yet. Okay. Next, not yet a bear market. Next question from the audience. What are your thoughts about FCG or Figaro Coffee Group outlook? Thank you, Nilda R. Maybe April?
Yeah. So, okay, the Figaro Coffee Group is expected to grow because of the popularity of Angel's Pizza, and it's spinach dip pizza, no? That uso siya. So I mean, if you're a businessman and then you have this wonderful product that people want to buy, what you do is you scale up and expand more branches, no, which is what they're doing using the proceeds of the IPO. Valuations are reasonable, still below 20 times PE, so pwede pa, di ba?
Yeah.
My concern though is, execution risk again. I would be monitoring how the company is doing kasi ang nakakatakot siya. We don't know the staying power of this spinach dip pizza because we asked them like what percentage of your sales is spinach pizza, and they said I think 40% of sales is spinach pizza. Eh paano kung hindi na yan uso? 'Di ba? May chance. I'm not saying na people aren't gonna buy that flavor anymore because they may continue to, but there is a possibility that people will get tired of it. Can they continue to come out with other flavors that excite people?
Right. In fairness, masarap April. Subukan mo na.
Oo, sinubukan ko kasi nung mag-IPO, sabi ko, syempre, kailangan malaman ko.
Yeah. Nilda, we had a conversation with FCG Group, I think a couple of weeks ago. Panoorin mo yun. It's in YouTube to know more about FCG. Next question, please. Do we still have from Juan P? How do you trade stocks that will be potentially included in the PSEI, like Monde? Juanis. Paano yan?
Very, very carefully. Because first is, as you come towards the date of that inclusion possibility, more likely people will already be taking some bets. There could be some potential activity already into the stock. Now, the problem here is, will it be included in this segment? Will it wait for the next period of discernment, whether it will be included? And so that's the part that's a little iffy that you can't tell. And many people who are playing on Monday, I mean, a lot of analysts are saying Monday is probably one of the highest chances for it. But in the end, I mean, it's really that index group that will make a decision. And if you call it wrong, then that could be quite a bit of a downside that you're going to have to be able to deal with. So I think what you do is, if you're going to do it, just take a little small part of it. If you find out that it's added, maybe you can add a little bit, but don't be too aggressive maybe beforehand, because remember, you have to manage your risk.
Manage your risk, right.
Yeah. No. And I just want to add, if it's the PSEI index, usually they only give 1 week for the fund managers to comply, di ba? Saglit lang yan. Yung mas interesting is the MSCI index. That one is longer, a few weeks yan eh. So,
a few weeks, right?
Yeah, so mas may meat yan, di ba? So itong PSEI, mabilisan talaga yan.
So be careful. Next, let's get some more questions from the audience. If we break 7,400 going up to 7,800 or even 8,200, I think it was Juanis who said this. You mentioned strong leading like financials, BDO, BPI, Metrobank, and improving stocks. Yan. Question, how much weight do you put to your leading stocks versus your improving stocks list? Yan. How much weight? So asset allocation ang gusto niya mang tanongin dito. Juanis.
It just means that I must have those leading stocks in my portfolio. That doesn't have to be all of the 3 banks in there, but clearly you have to put something inside, because that's where the fund flow is going. The trends are very strong. More likely they'll probably move first than the others, which you could have time to buy later. So I think you want to be able to put a solid amount inside there. Now, with regards to those that are improving, you have to take them maybe at least the issues that I highlighted is something that you probably want to have a look at, and then you distribute them across the board. And if I may, maybe just buy 1 or 2 inside that sector, so you have some degree of diversification. But it's telling you where the money is going, and I don't see why we should not participate. So there should be a healthy amount of your trading capital can be put in there.
heavier on the leading and probably a little less on the improving. Next, next, we still have more questions from the audience. One is, weighing your catalyst and risk, what probability are you putting on what you want to happen, which is really to break 7.4 going up to 8.2, and what you don't want to see? So if you're going to ask, gusto mag-bet nito ang nagtatanong if you want to put a weight in it, depending on your catalyst and risk, knowing what you know now, what kind of...
I would say maybe 70% in favor of on the upside.
Wow, that's good. That's good. So we're just waiting for the elections to finish, parang ganon.
Well, it could happen before the elections.
Oh, wow. That's good. Sige. So higher percentages for that. So I think it is consistent with what the audience is feeling right now in terms of sentiment. Diba? They want to invest more. Do we still have more questions from the audience? From Jay. Hi. Some stocks I had in 2021 had an earnings growth of 25 to 80% following the advice of Ms. April. How do I manage those stocks? Do I sell or continue to buy at today's prices? Ano kaya yon? What are those stock picks na strong growth? April.
Hindi ko alam kung ano yan. Hindi, pagka...
It's hard to say if you don't know what they are.
Marami kayang strong growth because of course coming from the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Oh, diba?
Oh, yeah.
So, meron din namang, okay, like Converge, that one is a strong growth, diba? Strong growing stock. So, yeah. So, I think, okay, last year, in general, the market was only up by, it's actually down 0.2%. So, if you think about it, if a stock was just flat and then the earnings went up by 25% to 80%, then that means you can still buy it unless we say that it's already expensive, maybe time to take profits, then, I think it's time to take profits.
Yeah. Tingnan mo yung stock picks ni April dun sa kanyang calling the shots. Right there, di ba?
Kasi, okay, there are some stocks that went up, okay, quite a bit from the March 2020 low, but that said, they're still very cheap. And, just to put cheap into perspective, kasi yung PE, parang ano ba yan, di ba? Another thing I look at is the price to book value. So, the book value is parang liquidation value yan eh. When you sell all your assets, pay all your liabilities, what's left behind is the book value. No? And you will see that there are a lot of companies that are still trading below book value. No? So yun na lang. So if it's trading below book value and it doesn't look like it's gonna be bankrupt anyway, then most likely if we continue to reopen this year and then continue to recover, then eventually it will still continue to go up even though it has already gone up from the March 2020 low.
Sige. All right. Last question na tayo. We're about 6 o'clock na. Last question na. Yan. What could be the signs technically that we will watch out for to better guide us with the trades this coming months? Ano daw? Tools. Juanis.
Clearly, since we're stuck in a consolidation, momentum indicators may not work very well. So what that simply means is you cannot use, it's like trying to use a speedometer in a car and your car is not moving. So you cannot use things like MACD, stochastics. It might be very difficult. So you probably just want to use the ranges that the patterns of that have been showing, and if punches above those range or if they rebound from support, those are the kind of entries that you probably want to do. It's like what I put earlier on. You buy it when they rebound off the 50 or 100 day, or you wait for a breakout. I think right now those are the two strategic points technically that you want to wait for.
Oh, so your support and resistance, parang ganon.
Because
right?
You're in a range, so you buy it off the low, right? And if it manages to break out, for example, what you saw in BPI or Jollibee or hopefully some of the others, then that's the time that you can participate.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, April and Juanis. That maybe we should wrap this up. It's already 6 o'clock. May I ask you to say last few words for the audience? Let's start with April.
Yeah, I just like to reiterate what I said earlier when I was doing the presentation. Although there are a lot of threats, a lot of risks out there, and it's easier to stay out of the market. I'd like to encourage everyone to invest in the stock market this year. I think the outlook remains very attractive, and don't be worried because it looks like the economy is reopening and stocks are cheap. So it's a good time to buy stocks.
Okay, good. Thank you, April. Juanis?
Hi. Okay, I would second the April's thoughts, and in terms of the strategy, since we're coming out of this reopening, and I think that there could still be more in terms of the upside, and you are in a situation where we still have some headwinds that could cause the market to come down, you might as well take advantage of those entries when you get these little dips, pick them up. And we feel that the potential breakout is going to be down there anyway. So you might as well take your leverage on accumulating these things when prices are just a little bit lower. And like I said, don't forget the strategy and the technical side, because to me, that's very important, just so you can control your risk as well. You don't want this, don't be buying breakdown situations. You want to buy it as they're rebounding off support, okay? Not if they're breaking down. So if they're breaking down, you stay away. Then finally, when they land on the next support and they rebound, then you can take your chance over there. So, and please be very focused on what you're doing. Don't just buy anything that out there, okay? I mean, you have to be a stock picker.
Great. Thank you very much, Juanis, for that. Thank you, April.
Our pleasure.
Let me put this together, no? Based on the last survey on the retail, investors are turning bullish. Top concerns are elections, of course, and the virus. But people believe that the market will be much better in the next 6 months, and the majority will be increasing their investments. And that view is generally confirmed by our speakers today. With a bit some risks, but I think it's generally viewed positively. On the global front, the massive liquidity that Anis talked about in the developed markets pumped in the system to help the world in the past 2 years are now being reversed. So, and there's just that move is going to be very powerful. And plus the fact that inflation is spiking, interest rates are also expected to go up. Therefore, bond markets will suffer. But despite that, global equities remain the asset class of choice. I think that is where the growth still will come from. On the local front, on the other hand, there are concerns on elections, of course, and the resulting change in administration, and of course, the variants of the virus. But for as long as the conduct, April said, for as long as the conduct of the election is clean and honest, generally acceptable, and the transfer of power is smooth, and our healthcare is not compromised, the economy will grow, businesses will recover, and this will help break the consolidation of the market that Juan is talking about, leading us to the higher levels, 7,800, even 8,200. So, what do we do? What are the themes, investing themes that we have for this year? We have seen that diversifying in other markets has proven well. Developed markets did very well for the last couple of years. It may not be as strong for the coming years, but global markets, particularly the equity markets, will be favored. Check out the funds that we have in the platform. We have a multi-asset global fund that pays steady income, and we have another one which is a world equity index fund. That's a good diversification for you. For the local markets, equities over bonds will still be favored. We continue to provide you with the cheat sheet in our speed round, so that so far is given good chances of success. And we also have equity funds in the platform, both passive and active, to choose from. Allocate a bigger portion of your portfolios to the winners. and then but remain diversified. So this pandemic has taught us that despite the turmoil it created, it also opened up new ways of doing things. It gave new learnings, new businesses that remained resilient and even thrive. The world continues to change, but let us learn from this pandemic and grab the opportunities that it presents. This period of consolidation is giving us the time and the opportunity to review our goals and align our investments accordingly. Okay, so with that, we hope this afternoon has been helpful. I hope we have given you ideas on the investing trends for 2022. Wishing you all a much better year. Thank you for watching.